At least mom will be listening.
So if you bring up Counter Stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.
Number one is number one.
1,000 miles away from me. Hello and welcome to the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast, where we talk about three things: faith, sports, and leadership. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Lutz, joined as always by my brother and co-host, Drew. Drew, how's it going tonight?
Doing good, man. Very excited about our guest tonight.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Our guest as well. This podcast, for those of you who might not have listened in the past, started out as an excuse for Drew and I to, one, talk about sports, and two, to connect on a weekly basis, because we now live 1,000 miles away from each other for the first time in our lives. But it has turned into something really cool where we have the opportunity to connect with people all over the world who just want to share their passion for faith, their passion for sports, their passion for leadership. And our guest today, I am extremely excited for. I've been a fan of his for a long time. And he is a singer, songwriter, worship leader. He's been on albums with Elevation Worship, Maverick City, Carrington Gardens, Dante Bowie, Aaron Moses. He's sung songs like Altar, which is incredible, Come Back Home, Hide and Seek, Million Little Miracles. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today is none other than the one and only Joel Barnes. Joel, how's it going, man?
It's good. I don't know if it's the one and only, but yeah, it's good. I can't complain. I have no complaints at all. I'm just, like I said, taking it a day at a time, trying to make it all make sense. But thank you guys for having me, Ryan, Drew. It's an honor. It's a privilege to be here. Yeah, I'm just really, really honored. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Well, this is the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast, and people might not know that you are quite a sports fanatic, quite a baller yourself. And so let us know, what's your sports background? Who are some of your teams? Do you still play any sports, or did you play any sports growing up? What's that like?
I mean, I dabbled in a little bit of everything whenever I was like coming up. Like my dad put me in like little league baseball, like all of that stuff. And like as I got older, I fell in love with basketball. Like love basketball. Like I can probably talk basketball pretty much all day. Love the like back and forth like shenanigans of basketball. I love football too. Like football's a little bit different. I've been playing Madden a lot more these days because I love football more than I play 2K, which is weird because I played 2K probably the last 17 years. But no, I love basketball. I go to the LA fitness gyms and get runs in. Like I go and hoop with the homies. Like whenever I'm in Nashville, I go call my homeboy Aco. We go to the gym, we hoop. Like I love basketball. So really big on all of that. Yeah, man, I'm a nerd when it comes to music. I'm a nerd when it comes to science. I'm a nerd when it comes to basketball, for sure.
Awesome. You got any particular teams or players you really enjoy?
You know what's crazy? This is gonna get me in trouble. I'm not a fan of teams because of the things that I've seen with how players are handled by teams a lot of times. So I'm a fan of players more. Don't get me wrong. Like I have a respect for like organizations, but I also think like I'm like, if this person like underperforms, you're gonna cut them tomorrow. Like I get it, you pay them a ton of money to perform well, but I'm like, there's a lot that goes into performing well. If someone's having a bad slump, it could be because there's things going on at home with their parents, their children, their wives, all kinds of stuff. And it's like they can't focus on the game because everything else is like beating on them. Also, if they are in a slump, the worry that comes with like, if I could get traded, I could get cut because I'm underperforming. Like people, I've heard the stories of people being traded in the middle of the season. Like they're on the court, they just dropped 25, and then when they sit on the bench to get a break, the GM's like, "Hey, shower. You can't finish the game. You just got traded." It's like, I mean, we're in the middle of a game. You see what I'm saying? Like, so I'm a fan of players. So players that I love to watch. I think watching Kyrie Irving is one of my favorite things because no one is better at like navigating the floor as far as like with the ball in their hands. They understand, like no one can stand in front of him. Doesn't matter. Like I watched the Iman Shumpert interview, and he was just like, Kyrie's the only person that will play you one-on-one or like ISO without any game plan. He's like, I'm gonna drive to my right. If you get there fast enough, that means that you left your stance. Cool, I'm going to the left. We're going this way. If you get there fast enough, then you're not fast enough to get back to the right. We're going this way. But I'm just walking you down to get to the cup. Once we get under the cup, it don't matter which direction we go in. I can lay it up with my right. I can lay it up with my left. I can go up and under. I can go like up and over. Like it doesn't matter where It doesn't matter where we go. So I think I love watching Kyrie. I love watching KD. KD's probably my favorite player of this generation right now. Like he's been my favorite player since he was at Texas, going to the Supersonics, to OKC, to you know what I'm saying. Like I think no one's better at scoring the ball. Period. Like he's the best scorer in the league currently. Like I don't know if anyone is going to be better at putting the ball in the bucket. I will say this: I'm not a LeBron fan, but I am a fan of his IQ. I don't think anyone on the floor today has a better basketball IQ than LeBron James. I don't think any player has a better basketball IQ. Like, he understands the game forwards, backwards, sideways, upside down, inside out. Like, it doesn't matter. He will call the other team's defense to try to stop his defense. I'm gonna try to stop his offense. Like, hey, no. You're not about to drive. You can't drive there. You got to drive down here to stop him from cutting. Otherwise, my rookie's gonna be open. And it's like you're coaching the other team on how to like play their offense. Is insane. Love watching. Who's other players I love to like watch?
I mean, I think those are good. Kyrie, KD. KD's been he's a hooper, man.
He
can score.
D-Book, Devin
D-Book.
Booker. You know who I'm looking forward to watching? This is who I think we need to watch this year. I think we need to watch some of these rookies. Well, one, there's a rookie from my hometown that's on Dallas, Sharp. He's one of the centers. He's like 7'4". Went to my hometown, went to my high school. Like, he was years younger than me, but like, just like all the things. Like, Sharp is from my hometown. Watch him. But I think we need to watch Rob Dillingham. He just went to the Timberwolves. I think he's going to be a problem.
A bucket.
He's a bucket. Rob Dillingham is a bucket. Like, it's really bad. I think if he spent like a summer with Jamal Crawford and then a summer with Kyrie Irving, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem. Yeah, those are like, I would think those are like the people that I like watching. I like watching Ant because Ant is a bucket too, but like also like he has that Atlanta like country twang to him too, like that Atlanta hood country twang. So those are the things that I like look for whenever I'm watching these players. Anyway.
There you go, man. Joel Barnes, not only singer, songwriter, worship leader, but he is a sports analyst. ESPN,
Bro,
call him up.
Listen, Ernie Johnson, give me a call. I love you.
That's awesome. Well, this is the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast. So we start off each podcast with a short devotional. We're going to talk. We're actually going to read a couple of verses from the book of John, which is one of the four Gospels, one of the accounts of Jesus' life. And we're just going to have a quick discussion about this before we hop into the rest of the podcast. It's John 4, verses 13 and 14. I'm going to read it twice, and then Drew will ask for some of your thoughts, and Joel, some of your thoughts as well. This is what it says. It says, Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." It's John 4, 13 and 14. I'll read it one more time, then Drew will ask your thoughts. Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." John 4, 13 and 14. Drew, so what are some initial thoughts from that verse?
Yeah, I love this verse. I have a lot of different thoughts on it, but when I think about my life, I think there is a lot of times when I try to get my drink from basketball, and then unless I'm Joel or Ryan, man, there's days where you can't hit a shot or something. A lot of ups and downs in basketball. Same with relationships or schoolwork, whatever it is. But then when I fully put my trust and lived out my walk with Jesus, man, he's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. So that's where you get that living water from Jesus for sure.
Mm-hmm. Joel, what are some thoughts?
I'm gonna try not to rant. Jesus. Okay. I think it's interesting because like the context of that verse is him talking to the woman at the well. And I heard this guy tell a sermon one time, and he said the woman thought she was standing next to a well talking to a man. What she didn't know is that she was standing next to a hole in the ground talking to the living well of water. And I think that that's such an interesting like concept. Because like him saying like this water I give you will never thirst again. And I think one of my like mentors, Steph, she was like, people build their altars where they believe there's water. And I think water for the soul is for like refreshing and restoring and all the things. Like water is used a lot of times for like not just for cleansing, but for the refreshing and the restoring of a soul. It's like when you look at the 23rd Psalm, he's like, "You lead me beside still waters." You know what I mean? And I think when you look at the story of Naaman and him going to the man of God, he said, go to the Jordan and dip yourself in the Jordan 7 times for the cleansing. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's interesting that like he would use that reference, like you'll never thirst again. It'll be springs of living water, like living water and moving water. Like still water doesn't have a lot of living things in it. Like like moving water is what has like living things in it. It moves, and I think moving water also like has the ability to like um mold and shape stone. Like if you put a grainy or like pointy rock in a river and let that moving water rush over, it'll take some time. But after a while, that water will smooth out that rough area of that rock. You see what I'm saying? Like moving water has the ability to like cut through stone over time. It moves it grain by grain. So I think that's a whole other thing. It's like there won't be anything that's thorny or pointy on the inside of you because the living water will mold down and sand down the pointy edges and smooth out the things. I feel the Lord. Anyway, so I think that's my initial thought when it comes to him saying like you'll never thirst again, but it'll be springs of living water. Anyway.
Yeah, man, that's good. So this, just for context, this verse radically changed my life. When I was a sophomore in college, everything on the outside was going really well. Was the leading scorer on my college basketball team. Was an honor student. Was a part of the student government. Was popular. Was dating my now wife. But I was at a breaking point where I wanted to end my life, and I had plans and all that stuff. And it's right where the Lord met me, and it was actually through a sermon from a pastor who wasn't even like, it was an online sermon. God can still reach people through a screen. And he was talking about this woman at the well, and I'd heard the story hundreds of times, but had never heard it like this. And basically I realized I was that woman, chasing after fulfillment in all these different wells. And honestly, most of the wells weren't even filled with fresh water. They were filled with salt water. And I came back thirstier and thirstier and thirstier, dehydrated. And then, I mean, in a moment, broken, crying in my car in the parking lot of that college, man, and felt more in that moment than I had in the years previous. And so this it's really cool hearing both of your guys' perspective. I had never even thought of the movement of the water. Like I've thought of the well within us, but just the movement of the water, the refinement of our soul that happens with moving water. I love that illustration, Joel. So yeah, that was really good. I love hearing the other people's thoughts on that verse, because honestly, I've gone back and listened to that sermon. It was Pastor Stephen Furtick at Elevation, probably in like 2017, and I've listened to it since then, and I got completely different messages each time. I don't even think the point of his sermon was what I first got at that time, but that's where the Spirit met me and introduced himself in a whole new way. So really cool. Any other thoughts before we head into talking about NBA basketball?
It's good, man. It's
awesome.
Really good.
Awesome. So the NBA season is here. And it's right around the corner. There's preseason happening. There's basketball that's happening. LeBron and Bronny are on the court at the same time. It's great. And so we're going to make a couple of preseason picks. And just a fair warning, if our Drew and I's NFL preseason picks are any indication of how this would go, we will get a lot wrong. So don't take any. Maybe Joel, listen to what he has to say, but what Drew and I say, don't necessarily listen. We're very biased toward our teams. And so we have a couple of like awards we're going to be looking at, and then just a couple of teams we're going to be looking at. We'll start with our MVP pick for the 2024-2025 season. Joel, we'll start with you and go around the horn. Joel, who's your MVP pick for this year?
MVP? I don't know. Like, that's a good question. Like, I want one of the young boys to get it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I want a Luka to get it. I want like one of the young boys to like get it. I want one of them to like go. But I'm not sure because it's been a domination for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, who won it last year?
It was Jokic.
I want to say Jokic won it again.
Yeah,
three-time MVP.
Yeah, 3 times. And Joel Embiid, I think, won it.
Joel Embiid. Like it was the big man. They've been dominating. But I don't know. I think Steph might run for it because he got a chip on his shoulder.
Okay, he
got a chip on his shoulder. Like you know what I mean? Like he's in a very interesting spot. But I want one of the young boys to get it, man. I want a young kid to like take an MVP finally. But I don't know. I think a lot of people chips on the shoulder. I think Clay got a chip on his shoulder. You know what I mean? I think Kyrie got one. It's a couple people. So, but then again, Joker might go back.
Yeah.
He might get another one. I don't know. LeBron might try. No, LeBron's too focused on Brown. So that's my thoughts.
There we go.
Yeah.
It says we're reconnecting. That's okay. I'll just give my pick right now. I'm going with one of the young guys. I'm saying Anthony Edwards is winning MVP this year. I think he's got it. I think he's different. I've grown up hearing about MJ, and I think Ant resembles what I've been told MJ had. So I'm going with Ant. Drew, who you got?
I'm going with Luca. I think adding a shooter like Clay is going to space the floor even more for him, and I think he's already putting up crazy numbers each year. I think adding a shooter like Clay Thompson is going to take his stats to another level for sure.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with more with Joel Barnes. Thanks, friends.
At least mom will be listening.
Hey friends, Ryan here, interrupting the podcast just for a second to tell you about a book that I would love if you picked up. It's the book Rooted Influence, Identifying the Root of Lasting Leadership. Now, I wrote the book, so I'm very biased, but I think it is a good book. It's a fiction story around the football world and the business world that has some real and applicable leadership principles, but also some faith perspective stuff that I think could be really helpful for you. If you like faith, sports, and leadership, you might just enjoy this book. It's a really easy read. Most people get it done in a day or two, but I would really love it if you picked up a copy. Rooted Influence. It's available on Amazon for only like $8 paperback. It's like $1 for the ebook, or you can go to ryanspencerlutz.com to learn more. The book is Rooted Influence, Rooted, Influence, Identifying the Root of Lasting Leadership. I would love if you picked up a copy. Thanks, friends. We're going to head back to the podcast now. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast, joined with a special guest, Joel Barnes, singer, songwriter, worship leader, and future ESPN sports analyst. We're going to be diving into a little bit more serious talk to just hear some of Joel's perspective. I think this is a great time to really turn it off of 1.5 and listen to it in normal speed, because he's going to probably drop some really good nuggets here. The first question that we're going to dive into, Joel, is how have you experienced the presence of the Lord in what will be considered the secular world, kind of like the sports, music, entertainment, the stuff that's outside of the church walls, outside of ministry, missions, all that stuff? How have you experienced God in those moments?
A lot of the spaces that I've been that are like outside of the four walls of the church have been like at dinner tables and things after basketball games, or on couches, like after like a basketball game or whatever, like after like we go to a concert or whatever. We sit on the couch, we sit at the dinner table, and we just break bread, and before I know it, they're asking questions. They're like, okay, so wait, tell me more about like this. Like I've heard this about Christians and I'm not really sure, but tell me like what this really is. And then next thing you know, we're nose diving about God and his goodness, and nose diving about his faithfulness and his consistency. And I think I've found God more at these dinner tables, like, than in any other space, believe it or not. Like I'll sit there, and before I know it, I feel him sitting next to me as we're like breaking bread with like these random people that they're like, okay, so you sing for Jesus. That's usually what they're asking. They're like, I'm like, yeah, and they're like, okay, so how does that work? And I'm like, oh, I mean, I spend time like with him, and then I write songs about him. And then they ask question after question after question. And what's crazy is a lot of them say the same thing. It's like, well, I just thought that Christianity was something that you had to be born in or invited into. Otherwise, you just weren't allowed into the conversation. I'm like, that's not true. You're always invited. There's always been a seat with your name on it. You just didn't know they had your name on it. But yeah, ask me anything. Let's talk. Let's break bread. Let's like navigate. And you'll be surprised how often God shows up and meets people in those like intimate settings. Like I think that there's an amazing place for like the four walls of the church for people to gather. But I think I also, especially after watching The Chosen, I think the gathering is where the saints are. It can be in houses too. So in a lot of these mainstream places, it's been interesting. We'll be sitting there after like Grammys or award shows or whatever, like eating burgers, which I don't eat beef, but like I'll be eating a chicken sandwich. But like we'll be sitting there and hanging out, and they'll ask questions like, so you were nominated for what awards? I'm like, oh, these or that or whatever. And like, okay, but tell me about the church, because I've only heard this and I've been weirded out, or I've been whatever. And I'm like, oh no, it's not. I'm like, some places are like that, but not all places. There's some places that are really really good places, like kind people, like understanding, patient, warm. Like they look and smell like Jesus. If you know what I mean. If you hang around long enough, like it's really interesting. So
Yeah.
that's been my experience anyway.
Yeah, that's really good, man. It reminds me. I mean, you're just saying that like there's a seat for you at the table and just sitting down and bringing bread. Like it's Jesus and Zacchaeus. Like so often, like we think of Jesus speaking to the thousands, which he did that, but he also sat at tables with people that were considered sinners. And
Publicans and sinners, yes.
yeah. Uh, all right. What are some ways? I mean, obviously, as you say, or as people have said, you sing to Jesus. What are some ways? How have you? Because if people haven't heard you sing, go check out Spotify, Apple Music, Joel Barnes. I mean, you're honestly, and this is not just me saying this because you're on our podcast, like one of the most gifted vocalists I've ever like experienced in my life.
I appreciate it.
And so, how have you taken that talent that you would say God's given you, and you've crafted and whatnot, and blended that into your faith?
I mean, it's almost as common as breathing. I think, like, you know what I mean. Like, I think my faith and my gifting, while they don't go hand in hand, they do have this middle ground of this like marriage and handshake where they go together very well. Um, I think my faith is not necessarily rooted in my gifting or ability. My faith is in Him, and because of my experience of Him, my gifting sort of kind of activates when I think about Him. You know what I mean? Or when I spend time with Him, like I can't help but sing about it. Because for me, music is almost as common as breathing. It's like the breath and that I breathe a lot of times. Like I can't help but like sing a note or try to write a record. But I think the same way I breathe and God considers that worship, I sing and God considers it worship as well. Um, I sit and spend time with Him and I reflect and I breathe. And then sometimes I sit and I breathe, like I with Him and I sing, and both are considered like a blessing to His heart. But I think they there is a marriage in the middle that they kind of like coexist. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think sometimes I utilize it to sing about Him with other people. Most times I use it to sing about Him and to Him, um, in my own time, in my own room. I'll sit with my acoustic and like try to figure out chord progressions to like sing songs to Him. So yeah, it's just that like I
Yeah.
use the gifts to climb into His lap and discover Him.
That's incredible. Visual is incredible. Uh, I'm a visual learner, and just the visuals you're portraying are just really helpful for me because I'm not musically gifted. I wish I was. Maybe someday God will come down and sing through me. But I can always appreciate someone who is, because there's something about experiencing music that just brings a different dimension almost to your soul and stuff. And so,
Yeah.
last question, and Drew, I'll have you kind of hit on some leadership stuff. What is some advice you would give to someone, because you're right now I mean, you're living your dream, but you're also chasing after dreams. Like, what
Yeah.
advice would you give to someone who is maybe 10 years before, younger than you are right now, or before you are, that are starting to chase a dream, starting to get dreams? What's some advice you would give to them?
Oh man, that you have to go after them. You have to take the risk even if no one else understands. I love talking about this subject because like I have a company called For the Dreamers. Like my publishing company is For the Dreamers, but also like my LLC is For Every Dreamer. So like my website is For Every Dreamer. Like I think this is one of my favorite things to talk about because um there are people that are like me, and it's not even just in music, but just like dreamers, people that live with things that they want to see happen or things that they want to like deposit into the earth, legacy that they want to leave behind. And it's the scariest thing ever a lot of times because you're trying to like get people to like invest, buy in, and like believe in something that they can't necessarily see, hear, taste or touch yet, but it's very real to you. Like I've been telling people like um here recently because like I said, I'm working on a project which I'm actually going to call From Dreamer to Dreamer. It's my letter to the dreamers anyway. But I think it's interesting if you don't have that thing knocking on the door of your chest every morning and every night. It's really a blessing because you can sleep at night. But for the people that have dreams and goals and ambitions and things that they like want to see happen in the earth or that God has given them, it's beautifully annoying a lot because it's like this thing is knocking, like these albums, these songs These dreams are knocking on my on the door of my chest every night, saying, "Give me a physical form to live in." Like, you need to write the album, write the song. I want a physical form to live in the earth. Otherwise, I will not let you get an ounce of sleep. Like, dreams will wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. The Lord will wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, "Hey, I need you to do this. I need you to accomplish this. I need you to say this." And I think some of those things, it's like, Lord, I'm gonna look crazy if I do that. You know what I'm saying? Um, but you have to do it. You have to live. Otherwise, you'll live in regret. Because I think I tell this story a lot too. Jim Carrey talks about how his father was the funniest man he knew, just super witty, super charming, super hilarious, but worked for a company for like 30, 40 plus years. I hope I'm not butchering the story, but he said right when he was about to retire and get his pension and all the things, they fired him. He was let go from the job. But his father said, if you want to be a comedian, you have to go after it, because I'm proof that you could fail at something you hate just as much as you could fail at something you love. But at least when you get to my age, you won't live in regret that you didn't chase the thing that you love.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The safe route is always there. Like, don't get me wrong. I think college is an amazing institution. I think that if that's what you're wanting to do, that's a part of your dream, then you should go. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be a doctor, go to school. You know what I mean? Go get your degree. If you're going to be a lawyer, go to school. If you're going to be like an architectural engineer, if you're going to do something that like puts other people's lives in your hand, you probably should like thoroughly be educated in this. But I think a lot of times in music, in fashion, in art, and some of these things is like, some of these are learn on the job things. They're not, you can't, it doesn't matter how long you go to school. Like, there's a theory, if you go to Berklee College of Music, if you graduate, you shouldn't be in music, because most people only go for the first year. And by the end of the first year, they're already out in the world doing music. They don't go all 4 years.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's just a theory. I don't know how true it is, and I don't know if I actually subscribe to it, but it's just a theory. But I think, like, if you have dreams, if you have goals, if you have ambition, you have things that you want to see in the earth, not everybody's going to understand. And the path you might take might be unconventional. You know what I mean? Like, your parents might even tell you, like, no, you should probably go to school. I have so many friends that they're in school right now because their parents told them they had to, not because they actually believe that that's the path they're supposed to take for what they're wanting to accomplish. I don't think that there's anything wrong with schooling or college. But for me, in my life, school would have helped in certain ways, but I don't think it would have made that big of a difference when it comes to me doing music. You know what I'm saying? Like, because music itself is a learn on the job training. Like, yeah, you can go to college and like learn music theory, but also music theory kind of comes with the territory if you stay in it long enough. You pick up an instrument long enough and you sit with musicians, you're gonna learn it without actually like learning it. You know, you'll naturally feel the progressions and how they're supposed to go. So it's an interesting thing, but like, sometimes people don't always understand, because you don't even fully understand how it's supposed to land yet. But you got to take the chance, otherwise you will live in regret. I know a lot of people that hate their jobs because they did what was safe, and I know people that went to school and graduated top of their class in like science, or in the medical field. They could be a doctor if they wanted to, but they did it because their parents asked them to, and they handed over their degree to their parents and their white coat to their parents, and then they pursued music. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I never wanted to do this. You made me do this. So here's your coat and here's your degree. But I don't want to do that. I want to go and be a missionary. I don't want to do that. I want to go and be a songwriter. I want to be an artist. I want to be an architect. I'm going this way. You see what I'm saying? My hope is that the dreamers will take a chance on the dream. The safe route's always going to be there. College, they will give you a college loan tomorrow, and they don't even know you. But you can't just walk into Sony and like get a deal. You can't just walk into Capitol and get a deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to take the chance. You got to, like, you can't just walk into any writing session and start writing records.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll give you a loan for a college tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? You can take a test and go straight to like any university. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's my grid for any dreamers, any believers out there.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Man, Drew, what are some thoughts you have real quick on what Joel just shared?
Get me fired up, man. I want to go chase that dream. But no, I think that was really good for all of our listeners, and then even me and you, Ryan, with positions where we're at right now. Me as a young college basketball coach, my dream is to impact the kids I get to coach, and hopefully teach them about Jesus and bring them
Yes.
close to Jesus. And Ryan, what you're doing as a pastor now, taking over that church, man, just go for it, man. With whatever you're trying to build, whatever you're trying to do, I think you've already started out great, but I'm excited to see the steps you take as well.
Yeah, man, you've just fired me. Like there's God's placed a lot of things on my heart. I stepped into a senior pastor role of a historic church. It's an incredible church, but
Yeah.
it's just needing some new life and whatnot. And I come in as a 27-year-old lead pastor, and there's a lot of things God's put on my heart, but they're gonna take risks and chances and being vulnerable. And it's been very easy for me to lay my head at night on my pillow and just be like, I'll put that off to 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But you're right, man. Like God doesn't need us to achieve his plans, but he wants us to. And so if he's
Hmm.
putting some in my heart, it's not because he needs me to do it. It's because he wants me to be a part of what he's doing. And so what you've said is really, honestly, man, just shaking up my heart quite a bit. So I
I'm,
appreciate you sharing.
I'm glad, man. I'm glad because God's breathing on it, man. He's breathing on the dreams. Like he wants to collaborate. He wants to collabor together. So I think like if it's in your heart and it's beating on the door, it's because God put it there.
Yeah.
You didn't just conjure up that dream. Like if it's literally living in you, it's because God placed it there. He allowed it to like live in you, and it's like because you have to get it out. Like I think this sounds so morbid, but I think I watched this other like interview and this guy named DJ Jazzy Jeff, one of Will Smith's homeboys. He was like, go to the grave empty. Get it out. Get everything out. Get every song out, every concept, every idea. You have to like put it out into the world. Go completely empty because you've been deposited with something by the Lord and you have to like release it. You got to get it out. Don't go to the grave with anything in you. That's so morbid to say, but it's like you have to. Otherwise it'll haunt you.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, man, that's good. I just wrote that down in my notes real quick. All right, Drew, we're going to head into the leadership section real quick as we close. You want to read through that quote and ask us some questions?
Yeah, so the quote is to have long-term success as a coach or in any position of leadership, you have to be obsessed in some way. That's from Pat Riley, legendary coach and now owner for the Miami Heat. So I just want to ask you guys what your initial thoughts are on that quote.
Yeah, I'll start, and then Joe, I'll go to you. He said you got to be obsessed in some sort of way. For me, being obsessed with basketball came really easy, and that's kind of led me down a dark path sometimes because I didn't have my priorities straight. But so I get scared when I hear the term obsessed or relentless or that type of thing. But then I read through and study the Apostle Paul, and that dude was obsessed with his mission. He was obsessed with telling people about Jesus so much so that when he was thrown in prison, he was still finding a way to communicate to churches and pastors and mentees he was mentoring and whatnot. And so there is a level of obsession that I think comes with success. And I think there's a way to be obsessed with what you're called to do or the dreams that you have that's still God honoring. I think when I was obsessed earlier in my life, it wasn't necessarily God honoring. It was all about me honoring. And so I think there's a switch in that. And so reading through that quote, I think there can be a level of God honoring obsession that comes with success. Joel, what are some thoughts you might have, man?
I think everything that becomes like great starts with an obsession, no? I think at first you have to kind of like become a maniac and be obsessed with something. And before you know it, that obsession becomes like a part of your nature. You know what I mean? Like I think it becomes a part of like who you are. Like I think if like we can use like basketball players, right? Like Kobe Bryant was obsessed with like the winning mentality so much that it became a part of who he is. It's like Mamba mentality is a real thing. Like people have adopted it because Mamba mentality is an obsession with like bettering yourself. It's like, yeah, no, no, no. I know I hit that shot over there, but it's like I don't want to do it until I get it right. I want to do it till I can't get it wrong. And the only way to do it till you can't get it wrong is to like have an obsession about it. And I think like when it comes to the things of the Lord, like being presence obsessed, eventually it won't even necessarily come off as an obsession. It'll literally become off like second nature or like the very breath you breathe. It's like when you become obsessed with the face of Jesus, when you walk into a room, like when you become obsessed with the face of Jesus, you become what you behold. But also like so when you walk into a room, the atmosphere and the space around you will change because you'll start to look like what you've been obsessed with. You know what I mean? You can tell when basketball players are obsessed with basketball in the way that they walk. Their walk tells on them. You know what I'm saying? The way that their placement and their footing, it tells on them. You can tell a soldier has had an obsession with like the drills and all the things because of the way that they walk. Like I've watched my dad and one of my sister's like husband, my brother-in-law. They're both in the military, never once like served together. But when they walk in sync. And I was like, that's weird, but it's because they've been literally programmed and in an obsession to walk in sync with their fellow comrade. You know what I'm saying? So I think it kind of has to be an obsession. And I think God puts a dream into you for it to like kind of like be an obsession because like he's obsessed with you. You become obsessed with him, and then you guys become obsessed with creating and collaborating together. And I think that that's when the thing is accomplished. Like it is kind of like a thing. Like you gotta, when you're obsessed, you know the thing forwards, backwards, sideways, and you can only lead people where you're going if you know where you're going. Like we can only lead people to where you've been if you know where you're going. And as a leader, you kind of have to know it better than everyone else so that you can lead people and navigate people through it. Because then you'll have to practice the patience. Like, oh, you're not there yet because you need to put this in and this in. So I think like most coaches, if you notice, if they're a great coach, they're better than a lot of their players in the fundamentals. They might not be better as far as like they might not be faster, they might not be taller or like more like agile, but most of the coaches that are spry can ball on their like their players. Why? Because I know the fundamentals forwards, backwards, sideways. I've been obsessed with this. I know where you're about to go before you get there. So when you get there, you're gonna make a mistake here because you haven't done the reps enough. I've done the reps until I can't get it wrong. Like if you think about it, when you go to the gym and you play a pickup game and it's that old head, that older dude that's been playing basketball for 30 plus years, he knows his game so well. You can guard as hard as you want to, and he's still gonna make it. Why? He's like, because I've done this a million times. This is nothing new. I've been obsessed with this rep. So I already know when I step here, it's over with. Like they talked about Kobe Bryant. They were like, the best way to guard him is not let him get to his spots. Because if he gets to his spot, it don't matter what you do, it's dropping. I don't care if you make him spin off the pivot, off his back foot. He's going to make it. It don't matter because that's the spot that he's shot it from over 1,000 times. It don't matter. Like if you put Steph Curry on the 3-point line with his toes on the line, it's a layup because he's shooting 1,000 shots a day. You can only do that with an obsession.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Great point. And man, that visualizes. You can put that to our faith too. It's so clearly. And I just wanted to share, like Ryan, we've seen that with our dad. He's become obsessed with his faith, and you can see Jesus's face like shining through him. And it's just so cool to see. And yeah, so that visual, man, really really good stuff.
yeah, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to rant, but yeah,
Never
that's
apologize for ranting, Joel. We enjoy it. So you, as far as leadership goes, we have a lot of people that are like young leaders or learning leadership. You've had the opportunity not only to lead in a worship setting at a really high level, but then interact with some of the highest level leaders in your field on a consistent basis. What is something that you've learned? Like, how have you learned to lead, regardless of like your role or title in a specific environment that you're in?
I think I just applied the fundamental pieces. I think one of my old mentors said that when you're leading on a platform, you need to be as bold as a lion. And when you're off the platform and you're sitting with people, you need to be as gentle and as lowly as a lamb. So I think I'm very bold about my faith in Jesus. I'm very bold about my passion and my love and my obsession with him. I'm very gentle when it comes to like the one-on-one thing. Like you're going to still feel the obsession, but it's just a different approach. Now you're gonna see the close and personal, like the lamb mentality. But I think watching these leaders, like one that just really very well versed, they spend every day putting in the foundational pieces, not trying to do the flashy things. They do the foundational pieces. They sit, they pray, they walk, they talk, they spend time with Jesus, like on a consecutive level, on a consecutive basis, consistent basis is what I'm trying to say. But I think when it comes to leadership, like watching them, it's like, oh no, this is what you do in your free time. Not just like, you're not just studying to prepare for Sunday. You spend time with him because you just want to spend time with him. You spend time because you just want to know him. You just enjoy the pleasure of his company. Okay, that's a whole different thing. Someone that's leading worship because they prepare for Sunday versus someone that's like, oh no, I sing to Jesus in my free time when I'm like at home. When I sit in my living room, There are days that I sit and I sing to Jesus. There's a difference in the way that they show up in a room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh, I learned to apply the basics and fundamental foundational pieces on a consistent basis every day. And it made the biggest difference. Because even when you're not leading, you're leading. My mom used to tell me this all the time. You have to fashion your life after Jesus, after his word. It's because your lifestyle might be the only Bible someone gets a chance to read. You see what I'm saying? So you're leading even when you're not speaking, even when you're not singing. People are watching the way you live your life. They're watching how you drink your coffee. They're watching how you prepare for the day. They're watching how you handle conflict. They're watching how you handle conflict when you're driving. Do you have road rage when somebody cuts you off, or do you bless them? They're watching how you live your life when someone like is rude to you at the counter. They're watching how you live your life when it comes to you tipping them at the restaurant. Do you tip poorly? Are you impatient? Are you like rushing them to get things done? Or are you kind to your like waitress? Are you kind to the hostess? Are you kind to, you see what I'm saying? Like you're leading even when you're not like on a platform.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man, that's good. I think there's application regardless of if you're a worship leader or a executive or a coach or a captain on your team, man. Like there's definitely takeaways from all of that. Last question before we get into anything else you want to talk about. Who are some leaders that have really shaped who you are today as a leader, but also as just a man?
my pastor, my apostle, Mark Casto, my pastor, Damon Thompson, my apostle, Stephanie Gretzinger, Rita Springer.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Leonard Davis out of Chicago. Incredible man. My mom, for sure. Like a lot of my brothers have helped me. My best friend Calvin Lockett, one of my other best friends, Tekena. Like there are people that have like helped me be better as a person, as a man. My brother Carrington Gaines, my brother Anthony Stallion, Jordan Marcotte. Like I have real life. Like my older brothers, my brother John, my brother Tiago. They've really helped me like level out as a man and as a like believer. Um, but these are just leaders that have like spoken into my life that have really like shown up and and taught me how to like navigate like the priesthood and manhood and the everyday life and everyday application. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
these are like amazing people that probably no one would ever even like know about unless you know them. You know what I mean? Like the hidden figures. I've had some amazing conversations with really like with peers of mine. Pat Barrett, we had an amazing conversation that like shaped things. Amanda Cook, we've had amazing conversations that shape things. So these are leaders. Israel Houghton, love him. Love my brother is. So it's amazing people. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's always good to give people their flowers when they leave an impact and a lasting impression in your life.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah, for sure.
it. All right. Anything else you want to cover? What are some ways that people can learn more about Joel Barnes, get connected? Obviously, go to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. Subscribe to Joel Barnes and get his albums and whatnot as soon
Yeah,
as
man.
possible. Anything else?
Yeah, just listen to the Good Shepherd album. Go find it. It's all on all the things. The Good Shepherd is incredible. If you need me, you can reach out to me on the For Every Dreamer website, foreverydreamer.com. Oh man, go listen to the Homestead Mobile and the Homestead Covington podcast. Like those are incredible places. Go listen to Rita's podcast. Uh, that's it. That's it.
Awesome.
Stay with
Awesome.
God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Stay with the
Absolutely.
Lord, as my mom would tell me. If you stay with the Lord, everything will work out.
Amen. And so as we close, I did want to say, man, you gave me a lot of credibility when I was a youth pastor out in North Carolina. The Old Church Basement album was released, and Million Little Miracles was like my student's favorite song. And that was around the same time that you and Drew had gotten connected while he was down in Texas playing college ball. And
Yeah.
I was like getting to brag to my students, yeah, I told them I knew who you were, or I
Mhm.
knew you, but really it was Drew and you had however you guys had connected. But it gave me a lot of credibility, so I appreciate that. And that
Yeah,
song,
of
man,
course.
Million Little Miracles, if you haven't heard it yet, it's that's our dad. He worships that song every night. He's going through a battle with brain cancer right now. And he's like Drew said, we see the face of Jesus in him. But I mean, that song, he's literally. I remember in the hospital after he had the brain surgery, removing the tumor. And he's sitting there in the bed recovering, bandages around his head, and just playing that song, lifting his hands, and just like that's the type of imagery you just can't replace. So incredible music. But yeah, I mean, Good Shepherd's great. I mean, Altar, is that on that album?
Mm-hmm.
That song was what I was listening to as I pulled into the church my first Sunday. That just gave me peace. And so thank you again for that.
Thank you.
Man, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. So thank you for hopping on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
no worries, man. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Drew. Love y'all.
Yeah, just wanted to add, man, like you helped me out through a lot of tough times when we first connected in Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize that, but like that was huge for me in helping my faith, and just someone to talk to and look up to, and the way that you responded and kept conversation going, and just advice you gave for me, man. I just wanted to really just say thank you and appreciate
I love you.
This, man.
I love you, Drew. I really do.
Yeah, love you too, man.
Well, on behalf of Joel, Drew, and myself, thank you so much for listening. It's been an honor, Joel. Friends, as you're listening, go be a light. Go back and listen to what Joel said, and just go chase your dream, because God's put that on your heart for a reason. Thank you, friends. Have a great rest of your week.
You know, at least mom will be listening.
So if you bring up Counter Stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.